If you clicked on this video, you are most likely working a well-paid 9-to-5 job. You got a good salary, your family's secure, you're comfortable, doing well for yourself, but you know that relying entirely on your salary is not a long-term plan. Maybe you even have young kids that are growing up and it's not like you're retiring tomorrow, but it's also close enough that you can't just keep ignoring it any longer. You probably want to build a safety net for your family, maybe even retire early so that you can spend more time with them, and perhaps even leave a legacy for your children. Now, you've probably been thinking about investing in Dubai real estate. You might have heard from friends or family who have invested that this is the best place to invest in real estate. You might have even started hunting for a property already. And if you have, then you probably thought that the first thing you should do is fire up Property Finder and you punch in your budget and just start inquiring on listings, which is literally the biggest mistake every first-time investor makes. But I'll get more into that later on in the video. Now, if you have done this, you've probably already spoken to a million different brokers and everybody's giving you different advice. Most of them are probably just trying to say whatever it takes just to convince you to buy the property they're selling. And you're trying to figure this whole thing out, but you're most likely either more confused than you were when you started, or just like dangerously overconfident when you have no right to be and you have no idea what you're doing. Not a single person you spoke to actually tried to understand your current situation and long-term goals in depth and actually build a tailored investment strategy for you. However, that is exactly what I have done for each and every one of my clients time and time again. And in today's video, I'm gonna show you exactly how you can quit your 9-to-5 and retire within the next 7 years by investing in Dubai real estate. When I first started out as a realtor in Dubai at 19 years old, I had many different experiences working with different types of brokerages, from small startups all the way to spending years at one of the most reputable and biggest firms in the city. I eventually left and started my own business and my own team, but none of them ever taught me what I'm about to show you. No brokerage teaches their brokers how to do this. I have spoken to hundreds of people in this industry over the years, and I have never met a single person who does this. In this video, I am giving you the full breakdown of the winning strategy that one of my clients is using in order to retire and quit his 9-to-5 and build a legacy for his family. Now, this is the full breakdown of the entire strategy that I created for this client. He's currently salaried, okay, and he expects to stay in the same field for about 6 more years before retirement comes into the picture, right? And based on that, that gives us a defined timeline on like how we can actually structure the game plan, right? So we have that kind of timeline to play with and we can build off of that, okay? Now, this is his first investment and it's gonna be the foundation for an additional safety net for him and his family, okay? And based on his current finances, he is able to put 25,000 dirhams a month towards building his portfolio, as well as up to a 40% down payment based on an ideal purchase price of roughly 2 million. But he did say that there's slight upwards flexibility if needed. He wants to exit within 3 years, and it is gonna bring the capital appreciation down quite a bit, but at the same time, it makes sense because we only have about 6 years to play with before going into retirement planning. This is all gonna make sense when I actually get deeper into the strategy itself. Now, he's not sure if he's gonna end up moving to Dubai or if his family's gonna go somewhere else. He's currently living in Singapore, but I've built this plan in a way that it gets him to a stage where he's very flexible towards the end, where he can actually choose whatever path he wants to. Now, this game plan is structured in 3 different phases. We have phase 1, which is years 0 to 6. And then we have phase 2, which is years 7 to 9. And phase 3, which is year 10 to 15. So this is a full, in-depth, long-term game plan. This is not just about one property or one investment. Whenever I deal with a client, it's never just about that one property because nobody invests in real estate just for one unit, okay? They always have a long-term plan in mind, but most people just don't know how to actually map that out or what that looks like or how to plan for it. Because the truth is, your very first investment links to your later investments as well. If the foundation isn't built right, you're not going to achieve the long-term goals correctly. And so it's super important to know your long-term goals and the long-term plan, and then you can reverse engineer that and understand where you're supposed to start and how you're supposed to start. Now, some of the core principles that I have when it comes to investing in real estate that I double down on and I really, really believe in that a lot of people don't talk about is, first of all, never build a strategy where one property or one phase is trying to achieve multiple different objectives, okay? For example, trying to find a property that is gonna get you really high ROI, really high capital appreciation, and also something that you can potentially move in or live in later that's you're gonna like the feel of. And so when you try to achieve all those things with one property or with one phase, all of those goals get diluted and you're not actually gonna achieve either of them to the full extent that you want. So the way this is structured is each phase has exactly one objective, and only once that objective is completed do we then pivot and move on to the next phase. Also, I never ever give guaranteed numbers. Anybody who gives you a guaranteed number for capital appreciation or ROI is completely lying to you. Nobody can predict that, especially if it's an off-plan property or something that's still under development. Nobody can actually predict that for you. The only metric you really have is to compare it with other projects or other areas, and you can kind of put them on a tier list and be like, this one's probably gonna appreciate the most, this one's probably gonna appreciate the least, and then this is kind of the ranking of most to least appreciation. That's all you can really do. You can't actually give a guaranteed number. And the third thing, this is not exactly a general principle, this is more specifically for this client, but for his first investment in Dubai and what is going to be the foundation for the rest of his portfolio, the priority is safety, liquidity, and risk management, not trying to squeeze out the most possible cash or returns from the property. Okay, so phase one, since he's currently employed and already has stable cash flow for at least the next 6 years, right? The cash flow is not a priority until then. So obviously after 6 years, the priorities may shift to retirement planning. But until then, what we're gonna do is we're gonna use this time to get a real foot in the market and build equity in Dubai as a foundational safety net for the future. And because this is his first investment and what everything else gets built on top of, it cannot be risky, okay? It has to be a safe play, but obviously at the same time, still lucrative enough to where he can make real returns, right? The main goal of this is preserving his investment and staying liquid. Okay, not maximizing the returns, as I've mentioned. And as I mentioned in the beginning with the core principles, right? Trying to get appreciation and cash flow out of the same property at once means less appreciation and also overall lower ROI because the objective is split, right? That's why this phase is fully dedicated only to appreciation, especially since he's still working and has a good salary and doesn't need the cash flow yet. So this phase, year 0 to 6, is gonna be 2 investments back to back over the next 6 to 7 years. The first one is aimed to exit in around 3 to maximum 4 years. I've put 4, even though he ideally wanted 3, because you never know, there may be unexpected delays or it might take longer to sell the property than we expected. You never know, but you always want to plan for delays in advance instead of it coming up as a surprise later. But yeah, and then once we exit that, the lump sum from the initial investment plus capital appreciation that we make after exiting is gonna go straight into the second investment. He's not gonna touch it. He's not gonna do anything with it. The second investment is already gonna be lined up as soon as the money hits his bank account, okay? And that is also gonna be aimed to exit in a maximum of 3 to 4 years. And the end proceeds of that is then gonna fund phase 2. Okay, so phase 2, now at this point, he's already built a decent amount of capital appreciation. He's exited 2 investments. He has a lump sum and he's got a proper foot in the market, a proper foundation. Now, he would be past that 6-year mark. So at this point, he's probably gonna be thinking about retirement or very close to retirement. And he's gonna need cash flow, right? Because once he retires, there's no more salary and he has to keep up the same standard of living and lifestyle for his family and for himself, right? So he's gonna need to be replacing that salary with a passive income, and the capital appreciation from the first 2 investments puts him in a solid position to reinvest that money into 2 to 3 high yielding ready properties bought in cash. So the first 2 investments in phase 1 is most likely gonna be an off-plan resale that he's gonna buy into someone who's looking to exit because they probably can't finish off their payments. So he's gonna go in and take over those units probably at OP, original price, and then flip those over a span of 3 to 4 years maximum for each of those properties, and he would have made decent capital appreciation. So we're now gonna put that into 2 to 3 high yielding ready properties. That means he can start generating cash flow immediately, and he's gonna buy it in cash, unencumbered, and it's gonna be purely optimized for the best cash flow, okay? Now, this is a long-term plan, so the investments need to generate cash flow for a long time, not just for a couple of years and then the demand dies down. It needs to be somewhere where it's gonna last a long time, the demand is there for the long term, and also the build quality has to hold up. It has to be built to last since it is a long-term investment. So now the entire objective has shifted purely to making the most amount of cash flow rather than capital appreciation. So you can see how I'm applying the core principle that I mentioned earlier, which is not having multiple objectives for one investment or for one phase. Okay, the first phase was for capital appreciation, and now we're gonna pivot after we achieve that goal and then focus on the cash flow. So we're gonna achieve the best results in this, and now we're gonna achieve the best results with the second objective as well, instead of diluting both of them and not achieving any of those to the full extent that we want to. Now, once these properties are in place and they are generating a rental income, generating positive cash flow, he's gonna be eligible for equity release. Now, equity release basically means that he can take a loan out against his property with the bank and then use that cash to buy another property or for whatever else he wants to do, right? So essentially he can cash out without selling it and still keep his investments. And so at this stage, he would now become eligible for that, and he can now do that whether he's a resident or not. He's currently living in Singapore, but it doesn't matter because he's now eligible for that. And that is what puts him in a really good position for phase 3. Now, phase 3, this is year 10 to 15. This is like the end goal, or near to the end goal. Now, he mentioned he's not sure whether him and his family are actually gonna stay in Singapore or they're gonna move somewhere else, or whether his kids are gonna wanna move to Dubai or India or somewhere else later. I mean, nobody can really predict that right now since this is so much into the future. But for that reason, we're actually gonna keep this very flexible and very fluid, and he's now gonna be in a very good position to do whatever he wants at this point, right? Now, if he decides to move to Dubai, the equity release from the cash flow portfolio can fund a family home for him, right? And so he can take that equity, buy a home, and then the cash flow is already paying off those mortgage payments. And so he's essentially getting a free family home. Now, obviously the word free is being used pretty loosely over here, but essentially he doesn't have to inject any more of his own capital. He's just using the foundation he's already built to now fund a family home for him and his family in Dubai. Now, if he decides he's not going to move to Dubai and he has passive cash flow that is secure, meaning he doesn't need more cash flow, he's comfortable and he's retired, the equity can instead be taken out of the cash flow properties. And now we can then invest in something that is slightly higher risk, higher reward, and slightly more of a long-term play, probably the first phase of a new off-plan launch or something at the time, that is then going to appreciate really well and really strongly over the next 6 years or so. That's going to strengthen and multiply his portfolio even more. And then lastly, if cash flow isn't strong enough, then the equity release can instead be used to just acquire more rental properties and increase his and scale his rental portfolio, right? And basically get more cash flow to continue funding his retirement and whatever other expenses he might have. And obviously, since these decisions depend entirely on his current circumstances at that future point, I've structured this in a way where it puts him in a position where all paths are now open to him. He can do whatever he wants at this point. He's in a really, really solid position. So this is the entire game plan over the next 10 to 15 years based on his current situation and his long-term goals. You can see how everything is super, super tailored towards the situation. And I haven't exposed the exact details of the criteria and exactly how we're going to purchase each one of these investments and everything that's going to go into it step by step. I do have an entire detailed plan for phase 1, but I'm not going to show it to you in this video. I'm going to save that for the next video, and we're going to go more in depth into exactly how this is going to be executed. So if you want the full breakdown of exactly how we're going to execute phase 1, which is year 0 to 6 of this strategy, building his equity and capital appreciation in this market, starting with his very first investment, I'm going to break that down in detail in the next video. So stay tuned for that. As you can see, I already have everything planned out over here, but you can't see this at the moment. I'm blurring it out. I'm going to save it for the next video. Now, at the beginning of this video, I told you that the biggest mistake every first-time investor makes is just going and firing up Property Finder and Bayut, putting in their budget and just inquiring on a bunch of different listings and trying to figure this whole thing out. And if you've watched all the way till this point and you've understood everything that I've said in this video, you've probably already started to realize why exactly that is, right? It's the complete opposite way of doing things. What we need to do is we need to first understand the person's exact current situation and their unique long-term goals and build out that long-term strategy, right? If we don't know where we're planning to be in year 10 to 15, how do we know what to do right now so that we can end up in that position, right? So instead of just going and looking at the products first, like most investors do and like every broker is taught to do as well, you need to first build out that extremely tailored in-depth game plan, and then you're gonna have so much clarity and you're gonna know exactly what you're looking for. You're gonna save so much time, energy. You're not gonna deal with a million different brokers giving you different advice. The only real hard part about this is that there's barely anyone out there who actually knows how to create these strategies for you. Personally, I'm the only person I know who does this. I still haven't met anyone yet, and I'm sure there is someone out there, there's other people there. I just don't know them. I've been in this industry for years and I'm yet to meet someone like that. That being said, if you want a strategy like this, fully tailor-made, customized for your specific situation and your long-term goals, then I'm gonna leave a link to my Instagram and my WhatsApp in the description below. You can reach out to me on either of those two platforms. Either send me a DM saying, hey, I watched your YouTube video, I want a tailored strategy, or send me a WhatsApp, hey, I watched your YouTube video, I want a tailored strategy, and then I'll get in touch and I'll do a free consultation for you and build out the entire strategy completely for free. No obligation to work with me, right? Although if you do like the strategy and if everything's making sense, and if we both feel like we are a good fit to work together, then that can always be discussed, of course. But yeah, with that being said, thank you guys for watching the video. See you guys next time.